My name is Tracy Steffes. My book is Structuring Inequality: How Schooling, Housing, and Tax Policies Shaped Metropolitan Development and Education. So my book is about the co-constitution of educational and metropolitan inequality over time in Chicago and its suburbs from the end of World War II through the early 21st century. And by metropolitan inequality, I mean spatialized racial and socioeconomic inequality. The heart of the story is really the efforts of liberal reformers in the 1960s and 70s in the city and suburbs to name and challenge this educational and metropolitan inequality through school desegregation, fair and affordable housing, and school finance and property tax reform. They tried to use openings in equal protection litigation, in federal civil rights statutes, federal social welfare investments, and state and local activism to challenge racial and socioeconomic segregation and discrimination and to modestly redistribute resources. They had some modest successes and a lot of disappointments as they faced off against defenders of inequality, including homeowners, businesses, and policymakers who benefited from the status quo. And these groups not only succeeded in defeating or limiting some of these reforms, but in changing the policy conversation so completely, including the idea of what government could do and could afford. It was largely pushed out of the policy conversation by the early 21st century, which is the world we live in today. I think the book really makes three historiographical contributions. First, that education and metropolitan inequality are co-constituted. Educational inequality doesn't just reflect unequal places, but schools help to create unequal places. They shape tax policies and burdens, developmental priorities, and the value and identity of places themselves. Second, the state government role, I think, is important and underappreciated in this co-construction of educational and metropolitan inequality. The state government sets the rules of the game, it creates policies, and sometimes it fails to act in areas of responsibility. And I think that tax policy and the state construction of localism itself are especially critical. And finally, I think there's a lot to learn in these policy fights about the mechanisms and narratives of inequality, especially the way that our current neoliberal era was constructed on the defenses of inequality from the civil rights era. And this continues to be the world we live in today, and I think you can really see it in education policy in particular. So in addition to these historiographical contributions, I really hope that people take away from this book that structural inequality can change, and history helps us to see that. Educational and metropolitan inequality were constructed and reconstructed and defended through policy choices. And therefore, collectively, we can make different policy choices. I hope that people take more hope than despair from this narrative and can look more critically at the policy landscape today, including things that we take for granted, especially in education policy.